Hello, I am coming to you with a new video, which this time now is already this sort of like second time I've tried to record it. So I just hope it goes okay. So here it goes, as it goes, as it goes, as it comes, it goes. Okay, so I'm coming here, building on top of my previous video, which was all about the sense of yearning and longing that we feel, which is a parallel of the yearning and longing that the divine felt at the moment of creation. And that happened because at the moment of creation, the divine needed something, somebody to recognize his own existence, to validate and confirm the divine's existence. So this is why he again, same disclaimer of the previous videos, I'm not going to say the same things again. This is why he created a mirror of himself in order to be able to validate its own and confirm its own existence. The same yearning that we feel in our own life about something that is missing is the same type of yearning about recognition and validation and acknowledgement of our existence. This was a previous video. Now, this video here stems from that video, but also a series of incredible synchronicities that happened to me. And I had a meeting today with my supervisor for my PhD. There are links to my PhD research and everything. I always got my friends there. And I'm coming to you because I want to tell you very briefly how a light bulb works. We start with minus and plus, very simple. And this is what we have is a difference in potential, which is called delta V, which is basically voltage. This voltage is in balance, which means that there is a flow in order to regain a sense of balance and harmony, which is what Yannis said during the conference. He talked about harmony. Actually, he came to me and asked me, what do you think that I have harmony? Anyway, this imbalance, it was actually drives the current. Okay, so the current is a flow of electric charge that goes always from minus to plus. And this is how we have current. Current flows in a copper wire. This is the movement of energy. And then what happens is, let me see if I'm actually able to make a nice coil. What happens is then there is a coil, which creates friction, basically. And in the end, what we have is, let me see if I'm so able to make. What we happen to is that we're going to have here a light bulb that offers to us both heat and light. This is very simple way in which heat and light. Very simple way to describe how a light bulb works. So again, we've got, these are the basis basically of electrodynamics, by the way. We've got a difference in potential, which creates, basically it's a tension and a transformation, which creates current. The current, of course, flows in a copper wire. There is a channeling and direction and gathering and harnessing of the of this energy, or harnessing of the current, which then in a vacuum creates heat and light, and of course also magnetism, basically, because magnetism is automatically a reaction of the external emission of light and heat. This is a very simple way to describe how a light bulb works. Now, first, the synchronicity. Why am I coming to you to talk to you today about this? When I was about 12, 13, my dad decided to send me to my secondary school in Italy, which would have been the years between 13 and 18, to send me to a very good school that we had, but it was an old boys' school. And I studied electronic and electrotechnics there. This is what I've started studying. And the school was dedicated to Arturo Malignani, who was a guy from the city of Udine, my city. And he's actually the guy who created and patented the last final, let's call it, system by which a light bulb is in a vacuum, basically. And Edison bought the patent of Arturo Malignani in order to create the light bulbs, vacuumed light bulbs, so that actually they don't get rusty and they last for longer. And the city of Udine was the third city in Europe to actually have electric light. So this is a bit of history. So I found interesting how most of my studies that I did when I was between 13 and 16, that because I've changed school afterwards, actually were inspired in a way by the figure of Arturo Malignani, whom I'm using now to talk about longing and yearning from a Jungian and alchemical perspective, because this actually the direction of I just need to find another pen or pencil or something that I can actually use. So let's go back and think about electricity, and let's think about the yearning and the longing with the same example of using a light bulb here. Okay, the yearning and the longing that we feel, if you remember my previous video, is this kind of sense of something lacking and missing in us. So there is something that we don't have, so the minus that we don't have in our own life towards a plus or something that we feel is lacking in our own life. And that creates a flow of energy. Now, in previous videos, I talked about the intensity and the fact that this intensity needs to be harnessed and not to be dispelled, this kind of energy. And it is true that, how can I call them? Magicians or people who manipulate energy in practices such as Taoism, for example, or similar. The words is eluding me now, but you know what I mean. The kind of a Doctor Strange kind of thing. It is true that they use breathing exercises and meditation in order to focus the energy. But by focusing, they increase the intensity. They don't dissipate the energy. It's not like having an anxiety, which there is an excess of energy that is fuzzy and needs to be dampened and dissipated. What they did, they are focusing. And by focusing, exactly as it happens with water, the more you shrink the volume of the water, increases actually the pressure, which increases the heat. So if you're using meditation and breathing exercises to focus, you actually increase the intensity of the energy, not the dissipation. Let's go back to my sort of like drawing here and my planning here. So this is transmuting of the potential. The current basically becomes the flow of energy that we have, which goes through copper wire. Now, why copper is important? Because copper is actually dedicated as a metal to Venus. Imagine the Statue of Liberty, which figure is basically is a Venusian kind of a woman. And of course, the statue is made out of copper, which is basically is that element. I've got loads of notes that I'm actually looking through, is as a symbolic element also, because I'm talking symbolism now. It's a symbolic element as a conductor of desires. It's the soul's capacity to be conductive where there is no blockage, okay? And in that sense, it's creative because it's Venusian. Now, incredible other synchronicity. The coiling of the wire is actually not in copper, but is in tungsten. And tungsten, actually, original name is Wolfram, and the symbol is the W, and its atomic number, bless his soul, it is 74, which isn't it an incredible number for a coiling of an element in our own? You don't get it? Not yet? Okay, let's take a step back. So you have all this energy that needs to be harnessed. The current going through a wire, that's how all the various possibilities, methodologies, and potentials, let's call it, because let's call this like a sort of like a you've got the prima materia, and then in solutio and coagulatio, let's try and speak Latin. In solutio and coagulatio, what happens actually is that we are directing energy into a usable and concentrated forms. Again, thinks about Marie von Franz, structuring psychic energy that mirrors alchemical work. When I'm talking about Marie von Franz, do you actually hear Marie von Franz's voice? Because in my head, I start talking like Marie von Franz. Anyway, the consolidation of intangible action becomes with a coiling. And that coiling is repeated actions, which means that if we had before in here, let me see if I can find another pencil, another marker. The potentiality of various action that we could take, which are just, again, in just a state of potential, which is the drawing, the journaling, any other practice that one desires to do. The coiling is the choosing of an action and to do it repeatedly. And that's the important thing. We need to do actions in a repeated way. So when I'm asking my clients to do journaling every day in between sessions, there is a reason. Because it is a repeated action in a vacuum space that actually creates heat and light. Now, why is the importance of being in a vacuum space? This is the hermetic closure. This is the, how did I call it in here? It's besides being a space out of corrosion, that is the physical part, but it's also a symbolic corrosion, energy dissipating when we're giving away energy to other people or to other things which are not conducive to our focus. This is the, let's call it consecrated emptiness. This is the vas hermetis. This is the sealed flask. And we need to be in a sealed flask to do repeated action in order then to create a long-lasting heat and light, which then brings magnetism, which then moves stuff towards us because we are changing our surrounding. This basically is the process of individuation, i.e. there is a longing or an awareness that something in us is missing. I'm harnessing my energy. I look at all the possibilities of different tasks and steps that I can take and paths that I can take. I take one and I need to do it repeatedly with focused attention. So focused that actually I am in a status of emptiness and very clear boundaries with the outside world in order then to admit heat and light. Am I making sense? Now, let's go back to 71. Did you get it? Why 71 is so important? No, because 7 plus 71, 74. I was already at the 1. 7 and 4 is 11. And the number 11 normally is used to indicate intuition and spiritual enlightenment. So here we have it. How long is this video been now? Oh, 15 minutes. Could actually have 5 more minutes. So what I'm trying to use here are, and again, this is not stuff that I've plucked out of thin air myself. I mean, if you're reading any Jung or any Marie-Louise von Franz, I've got so many names of people who wrote similar stuff. One of the things that I would say is that these simple parallels that I've drawn between how a light bulb works and how actually our inner world works, I think that is mine in a way. But I think that it is important to take sometimes the difficult or more complicated parallels with quantum physics and quantum mechanics, which albeit are very true, sometimes are not easily graspable at the very beginning by everyone. But we all switch on a light every day. And I think it is the idea now that we can actually have a parallel about what we have to do. Now, in the conversations that I had today with someone, I asked why it took me such a long time to get to where I am now, if the process is just so easy. And the reason, and the answer that I was given is, and it was so clear that it was painful, that I have never done a constant repeated action. But I've often thought, after trying once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, nothing actually worked, and then I just left it. And we never know if actually the light and the heat comes after the 6th, the 7th, or the 10th, or the 15th coil. And that is the need for something to work. It's a constant repeated action. And the other thing is that for many years, because of my upbringing, that seal vacuum for me was never sealed. For too long time, I actually gave a lot of my energy away, and I allowed it to dissipate to people, events, and paths that actually were not mine. Another beautiful synchronicity that I found, or parallel, is the tungsten or wolframs actually is in steel gray color. And of course, I did my master by research thesis on Encounter the Divine in the Act of Drawing, which spoke about the parallels between the steel gray color emitting ultramarine blue frequency light, which is the color of divinity. And I think that it's just so apt to the fact that whatever creates light and heat actually comes from something that is in steel gray color. I mean, I'm fascinated by these things, and I'm just all excited, and I hope that you find some excitement too. So probably more is gonna come out of this, and I just hope that you like so this is one of the drawings that I did, but this was one of the drawings, this was another one of the drawings, so process of individuation as a parallel to how a light bulb works. So this is me done for today. By the way, today is new moon in Scorpio, and we are very close to a large sort of water trine. And today the sun was also cazimi with Mercury cazimi with the sun, and both opposite to Uranus. And whatever that means, I don't know, but I'm sure I can find another sketch to create about something else. There are of course more videos, more stuff that's gonna come out. Lots already came out. A new article that I wrote came out yesterday on an academic journal. So all good, all very good. Remember, 7 and 4, 11.